And welcome to another insightful episode of Live by Heart Today, episode 60, In with the New, with your hosts, Don and Wendy. Our show begins now. Streaming from Retro Earth Studio and brought to you by
Learn to play jazz piano like a pro, by a pro, with Jazz Piano Pro Essentials at jazzpianopro.com.
And wearehistorically.com, conscious human apparel. It's time for the next episode of Live by Heart
Today.
Hello and welcome to the Live by Heart Today show number 60. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves in. We'll talk a little bit about science, a little bit about how our body works, a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation. I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, medical intuitive and coherence coach. We're focusing on rebirth. Today's theme, In with the New. With me for today's Heart to Heart is my co-host, Wendy R. Wolf, professional transformation facilitator. Welcome, Wendy.
Hey, Dawn. I just was noting before we started today that we're halfway through this season about rebirth.
Wow.
Halfway through with this In with the New. So it's good timing. We've gone through a whole lot of information. I just want to say, these amazing, I wrote down these amazing topics. If you guys have missed them, I hope that you go back and see. New beginnings, trust the process, transformation essentials, dancing the opposites, death is the way, wrong, take up your cross, rah, rah, and in search of resurrection. So today, I'm really excited to be looking at how do we integrate all this? How do we live in this new world? It's really, really a great topic, I think.
How-tos are big topics. They're very attractive in marketing. And how to do something is very helpful for people, especially when we can give some best practices and they can avoid pitfalls. And when we're talking about resurrection, there are new things. We are new, and the world around us may not be. We might go through a change and then go back to the same house, go back to the same marriage, the same family.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we navigate when we're new, but other things and people may not be new?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like this is such an important, very important topic. And, people go through it all the time, just like at the turn of the year, I'm gonna make new agreements with myself. We talked about this at the turn of the year and make new agreements, but the rest of the world is back in the old agreements. And all right, I'm gonna, give up this practice or that, eating that. Everything in our life is set up for the old way, and all the momentum is the old way.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe after we go through the process that we're talking about in our soul, we are new. So how do we honor that? How do we integrate it? That is a really exciting topic. And I'd love to hear from people what their practices are and have been, but we're going to talk about ours. What are you going to say, Dawn?
Yes. Sharing with us what you've noticed about new things. And one important understanding is that most people realize that during that period of time in January when resolutions are made, there is a large percentage of resolutions that never make it past February 1st. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe one of the reasons is that our environment stays the same. We may decide to do something different. We may decide to be different. We may have gone through a death. We're resurrected into a new way of being. However, the old way we were can still be set up, can still be the environment that we go into. And that makes it very difficult to move forward, very difficult to maintain the newness.
Yes. Yes. So I have something to start with. I feel like it's so important. And I go over this pretty much in every new workshop and every new class and every new is to talk about what we call growth periods. And growth periods, it's a period of time. Um, it's a period of time in which in my soul I've made a shift, but I need to integrate it into my body and into my life, into my relationships, into my world. This is what we're talking about today. And so there's a few just basic stuff that we talk about. And one is that, all right, we've made a shift in our soul. And so all these things have to recalibrate, have to morph. And so the first thing that helps is to notice, oh, I'm in a growth period. Like I've made a turn, the wind has changed, and I've redid my sail, and the ship is starting to turn. But it takes a minute. And in that time, however long it might be a second or a minute or a day, hopefully not more than a week, because if we allow it, we can allow everything to shift. If we're resisting it can be hard and long and uncomfortable. So first is to acknowledge it. Oh, I'm in a growth period. I meant to shift. I am shifting. It's coming into my body and life. Hooray. Like it might be a little uncomfortable sometimes, but hooray. So to acknowledge it and say, oh, Wendy talks about this, Dawn talked about this. Look, it's happening. And the second thing is that there's things needed. Like I might need different nutrients. I might start to crave broccoli for some strange reason. Like like mothers are known to crave this or that thing. Oh, I need this mineral. I need this trace mineral. I need this whatever. And there's craving. I need to go out dancing and move my body. Oh, I need to sleep a little more. Whatever it might be, to be noticing in the body, in the relationships, in the life, what is needed, what is being called for. It might be subtle, but it will be there. Oh, it's finally time for me to have that talk with my mother. Oh, that's finally time for me to rearrange my work schedule. I just cannot stand it like this anymore. So these things call to us. Are we willing to say yes? Are we willing to say, all right, I'll eat more broccoli and go to sleep early tonight, and then tomorrow night I'll go out dancing? Fine. Or am I going to say, no, I have a schedule, but I already know what I'm eating tomorrow. Forget it. So am I willing to pay attention to what's needed for the shift and do it? And the third thing I talk about is, there's these tools that we teach. There's to go in our soul and allow change. And am I willing to allow change, continue to allow change so that the friction can get out of the way? So those are the three most important things that I talk about. Am I willing to allow yes, there's change in my soul. Am I willing to soften in other parts of my soul, in my self-concepts and my identity, in how I do things, who I know myself to be, who I know the other people to be? So that's the basics of a growth period. And it can be fun and easy. It can be a little uncomfortable, but it's a place to start.
I'm reminded of two things you said. One, everyone wants progress, no one wants change. And this is when change can help you continue with your forward momentum, and really is important in order to ensure that. Mm-hmm. And I've lost the other thing. I'll remember it. Okay. There's something else that you say that I wanted to mention.
So growth period helps to know that I'm in one. It helps to go along with what are the leadings of my life and my body and my soul. And am I willing to continue to morph on the inside, allow the change? Yeah.
Yeah. With regard to allowing the change, change can be uncomfortable. And our relationships can become strange when one of us changes and we made agreements on being a certain way, but
Yes.
we're not that way anymore. So I'd
Yes.
love for you to spend a little time talking about that, because we talk about the difficulty of growth period here, but there's also an out there that struggles. Would you share about that?
Yeah. I'm fortunate. I mean, my partner Michael and I were human and all, very human. But we really recognize, both of us, we're both transformation facilitators in our own way. And it helps that we're conscious that we wake up every morning being like, who are you? I don't know who you are. And allowing each other to change. There's some people that feel like, and maybe they do feel like, I certainly did. I moved across the country. I did it to get training I needed, but it also helped me to shift from some defaults in how my relationships were in my family and my friends. And the way of being in New Jersey. It helped to be in a different place, but it's not necessary. Like, can I find here the space in my relationships to allow them to change, to allow them to transform, and to invite them to allow me to be different? Um, and it's hard, we all know each other, and we have listening. We have like, oh, I know who you are. I know how you show up. And it takes some time. I know I used to go to Michael and say, oh, I had such a shift today. He's like, I don't see it. That went on for quite a while. And then eventually he'd be like, wow, you're really different. So I had to allow him to be like, you're not different, but I was.
Yeah, it reminds me when Christ was going to Nazareth. And what did they say? Wait, isn't this the kid we grew up with?
Yeah.
Don't we know who that is? And they
Yeah.
wouldn't listen.
Nope.
Yeah.
And miracles couldn't happen.
Miracles couldn't happen.
Yeah. So this is a gift that we can really offer each other, and invite others to play with for ourselves. Because if they can't let us change, it gets really hard. And then what I notice with longer term trainings with folks is like, what I know, what they don't know when they start is they're going to change, and the relationships are going to change, and the people are going to change. And it's up to the dance with them. Is a relationship going to change by the person leaving? Or is the relationship going to change by everybody shifting? And you and I are both fortunate to be in relationships in which shifting keeps happening.
Yes. It was something they mentioned when we went through massage therapy school.
Yes.
They gave us a long conversation about how this is a process and you are going to shift and evolve and things around you are going to change. So be ready for it, be expecting it. And lots of relationships ended. Some relationships started.
Yeah.
And the truth is, we were receiving lots of body work every week.
Yeah.
We were studying. It was a deep dive. And you do come out with a different perspective on life. And one fellow student of mine remembers after the nutritional program going home and telling his wife how they needed to change what they were eating for themselves and their children. And it was hard for her. She was just like, "What? That's not what we've done before. Why are you saying this?"
Yeah.
And sadly enough, that was one of the relationships that ended because it was so different, and they weren't seeing eye to eye. It was very difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I can see her point. It's like he got educated and kind of was like, you have to change. It's just like, how about I share my education with you, and then we'll decide how to eat. You know what I mean? Like as the changers, we can be flexible too.
Yeah.
We can be flexible too. And we can look for like, what can we stand and what can't we stand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I was changing my diet and trying to identify, what was irritating and causing inflammation, I would just stop eating certain things and whole categories of things. Like I would
Yeah.
stop eating nightshades. And at the beginning, it was difficult. At the beginning, um, my husband didn't quite understand it, and there was a struggle about, wait, you're cutting this out, does that mean the rest of us are never going to get those?
Mm-hmm.
And I was still cooking them, I just was choosing not to eat them. So making choices for ourselves is important, but understanding that the choices that we make also affect the people around us. So
Yes.
you're right to be softer about it, to be more expressive and communicate a little more about it, and maybe about the whys, so that there's an understanding, and so that everyone can turn to the same page instead
Yes.
of being lost.
Yes. Yes. It's wonderful. Um, and this for me, this conversation goes right into the next part. I have three parts that I feel like are most important around this conversation. And the next part is resistance. La la la, our friend resistance. And and resistance, from my perspective, I might have said this before. There's this wonderful writer back in the 80s who was some kind of psychologist or something. And she wrote a book. She wrote books called like The Dance of Anger, The Dance of Intimacy, Harriet Lerner. And one of the big things she talked about that affected me so much is she said, whenever we make a change, everything, everyone, everything in me, everything outside of me is all going to say, change back, change back. And then eventually, if we hold, we acclimate, they acclimate, the whole system reacclimates, and we go on. And that's resistance.
I'd like to speak to that just briefly. In the posture work that I do, oftentimes people make changes in their position, and then their pants feel funny, or their belt doesn't fit the same. And one of the biggest shifts is the shoes that they're wearing. So the shoes that they wear have the old pattern worn into them. And so I speak and say, you are attempting to create a new pattern, one that is better for your structure, it's stronger, it's more foundational for you, and your shoes have the old pattern. So you're going to be fighting to make that change against the shoe that conformed to the way you used to hold your body. And some people will say,
Mm-hmm.
are you telling me I have to buy new shoes? And I never tell someone they have to buy new shoes. But I'll say, is that something you want to do? And there are a lot of people who are relieved and say, yeah, I needed a reason to get new shoes. And other people say, no, I like these shoes, right? So everybody has their own way of responding to it. But the truth is, the old pattern is worn in the shoe. And so it's
Yes.
going to be guiding your foot with every step. It's going to guide it
Yes.
into that old way of being. And so you're
Mm-hmm.
right. Things are wanting you to change back.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great illustration, Dawn. And it's not just the inside, like, of the sneaker, let's say. It's not just the inside, it's how the wear pattern on the bottom as well that brings us to the new pattern. And I will say, you did such phenomenal work with me very quickly about how to hold my feet and knees and hips. That made such a difference. But one of the big things that was hard is that for quite a while, I first of all, I couldn't wear any of my shoes. Like, all of my shoes became obsolete. I couldn't fit, like, they didn't fit me. Couldn't wear them.
You mean with the new
And
pattern or with the old pattern?
yeah, because not only did I have a new pattern, but my foot shifted how it was being.
Ah,
And so all of my shoes were obsolete. I didn't fit any of them. And for quite a while, I hope this doesn't, keep people from doing it, but for a while, it was better for me to be in like flip-flops, even in the winter,
Mhm.
because it was like the way that my foot was changing was
You
very
had more
uncomfortable and shoes
freedom.
were a lot.
Yeah, you had more
And
freedom with the flip flop to put your foot in
to
a
let the
different
foot be
position.
how it wanted to be. And then eventually it acclimated, and then I got all new shoes and I'm happy.
Mm, mm.
But the important part here, is it worth it? Is it worth it? I can go hiking. We've talked about this. I can walk up and down mountains. I can hop from rock to rock. I couldn't do any of those things without a lot of pain and injuring myself worse. So, like, is it worth it? That's the question. Like, some of these transitions, okay, is it worth getting rid of all my shoes? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And you never told me to get rid of my shoes. But
No,
but I
no.
can wear them.
And I want to honor that you were willing to make the change and to stick with it
Mm-hmm.
because you felt the truth. You felt the validity of how it affected the rest of your body. Changing your foot affected your ankle, affected your knee, affected your hips. And
Yes.
you were willing to take the route to make it more permanent.
Yes. Yes. And I'll say more recently, I've been doing other work that has shifted how my hips are
Mm,
and everything. And just walking around, the way I'm using my muscles is different.
yes.
And so it's uncomfortable, and I'm stretching, like how can stretch is different, and it's like I'm easily fatigued. I walked
Yeah.
around like 2 blocks last night, and my legs were like, "That's enough of that." I'm like,
Hmm.
what the heck is going on? But my whole hips are different, and therefore all the muscles in my leg are operating differently, and that's
Yes.
good.
And so the ones that you aren't accustomed to using are going to tire more
Yes,
quickly.
or using different. I don't know what's going on. Using differently. It's bizarre.
Yes. Using
Yes,
them differently. It's
yes.
so true.
Right. So like I can experience it, be like, this is resistance. I don't like this, I don't like it. Um, but it's really good news.
Hmm.
Yeah, okay. So I can't wear my shoes. My legs hurt. But oh my goodness, I'm walking differently. And what a blessing. So this is the very thing that can we acclimate and be like, okay, there's resistance. Okay, there's pushback. Okay, there's friction. Can I tolerate a little discomfort for such a reward?
Yeah. And you're talking about a little discomfort and completely changing shoes. And that's no small feat. Um, and you were willing to do it. There are some people who are not willing to do it, and that's okay. That's their choice, and they continue to sustain the same discomforts. They're not hiking, they're not walking,
Right.
and that's their choice, and that's okay too.
It's okay too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make it seem easy. Like basically all those shoes lived in my closet for a long time,
Mm,
unable to be worn.
mm,
Um, and then after a little while, the most obvious one, and it was so hard because I had like dance shoes and I
mm.
had like shoes that were important to me that were not cheap. Right. But it's like, all right, well, all right, these clearly do not fit. Okay, let me give those away.
Hmm.
And then, okay, well, I'm uncomfortable if I put these on, after like a year. Okay, fine. And then the rest of them I didn't get rid of until I left Seattle. It
Mm.
wasn't easy, but I'm like, all right, I'll give them to the Goodwill. And I tried to give them to people who wanted them. Some of them I had several pairs of brand new shoes, fun shoes, right? Oh, well, because I can't wear them and it's not worth it to hurt
Hmm.
my feet. Like how I grew up is that my feet were hurt didn't matter. That's how I grew up,
Mm.
right? Like if you have to like clip off the little toe or something, do it. Like that's the right. Like you have to fit in these beautiful shoes, right? That's how I grew up. Like the
Mm.
shoe was what was important.
Mm.
and I've come really far, not all the way, but I've come really far to my feet are what are important. you know? And I think
Yeah.
a lot of women can relate to this.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, well, I'll wear these high heels, they're uncomfortable and I can't run and they're shortening my calves and all this stuff. But okay, you know, I can't do that. It's like, okay, goodbye shoes.
But you're hiking.
And that's what
Yeah.
matters. Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yeah. So
We're talking about resistance, and we'll continue our conversation about resistance after this short break.
Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Thank you, We Are Historically, for making this show possible. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hello, I'm Dawn Spiegelberg, a heart coherence coach. How do you feel supported in your life when the rest of the world is anything but supportive to you? It comes from inside. It comes from the foundations that you create day in and day out. The most important thing in understanding how to maintain happiness is the time, because it's the time that you put into maintaining your individual happiness that doesn't just happen overnight. It takes an investment. Live an amazing life and let me help you live that way. Right? Book a session.
hello, my name is Wendy R. Wolf, and I hope you come to my intensive. I'm really interested in working together with people who are big feelers, healers, also lovers, and leaders. These are the people that tend to be really paying attention to what's going on the inside and how we can help people from there, help other people. And I'm going to offer an intensive with interactive exercises so that we can become empowered as big feelers and healers and lovers and leaders. And I hope you join me. Please go to my website, wendyrwolf.com, and on the top I'll have a button to sign up. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I instruct an online video course that teaches anyone how to play jazz piano like a pro with my proven step-by-step system that makes it simple to learn. Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Learn the quickest way to start memorizing and playing scales today. Download my free Quick Start Guide.
Welcome back to the Live by Heart Today show. This is show number 60. Rah, rah. And in regard to resistance and our conversation about in with the new, we're discussing how to live on after the resurrection. That you've given yourself up, you've denied yourself, you've relinquished and gone through the death. You've come out the other side, and now what? You may be different, and the rest of the world and all the agreements that you made from your previous life haven't been changed yet. So embracing the change, moving forward, and making the choice to continue to be changed is really a big deal. And I have to say, this is the story of the hero's journey. There's a change. They come out the other side and they're different. And it's significant.
And whole new things and worlds are possible. There's whole new possibilities available to us. So, yeah. So in the last time we talked about growth periods and how if we can allow that change is happening, that we can notice what we need and integrate it. We can intuitively notice what's needed and integrate it in a conscious way. Be willing to say yes to life, which is really goes on to resistance. Can I say yes to life and yes to change and yes to new agreements in my life and body and relationships? And I think it really helps in this process, overarchingly, to take human bites, is what I like to say.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Rome wasn't built in a day. You know, all of our life and our relationships and our agreements didn't just happen like this. It happened over the decades of our life. So am I willing to just roll with it and breathe and be like, I am different. I'm going to allow to integrate all this new in bite-sized pieces, to be able to chew the cud a little bit and not have to do everything at once.
We had a conversation, I'm reminded of it now, probably a week and a half ago, about resistance. And I often like to look to nature to understand how resistance occurs more naturally. And I was reminded of the air currents and the wing of a bird, and how, with the resistance of the air passing over the wing, it creates a dynamic shift that allows the wing to rise, that allows the bird to rise. And that's the goal, for them to fly and fly higher and fly true.
Yeah.
And I realized that I was meeting resistance like a wall. So there was resistance, and rather than using that resistance to find the form, the position that would allow me to rise higher, I was just hitting it like a wall. And when we see that resistance actually has a benefit, the hero's journey is full of resistance, and that's what molds him into the hero. And I was not embracing that. So resistance is, and from my understanding of nature, something that allows us to continue moving forward, and it forms us into newness and wholeness, and it helps us maintain that new resurrected way of being. Would you like to talk about that for a
Yeah, it's
moment?
very much muscle building. We've talked about the little chick pecking its way out of the egg,
Yeah,
but that makes the chick into someone who can do it, someone who
stronger.
can live life and find food and run from enemies.
Yeah.
Right? Without that exercise, it wouldn't be able to do that. It'd be like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's a gift.
Yeah, they've said that there are some people who want to help the chick, so they crack and break the egg, and then the chick just lays there, like the chick doesn't make it, doesn't survive.
Right, right. And so I love this picture of a wall that you're saying, because it's like the wall is us. Like the resistance is going to come, right? So am I going to be a wall, or am I willing to be a wing? And like, am I willing to dance with it? Like I was saying with your massage buddy who went home and said, we're going to change how we eat. It's like, that's not going to land.
Yeah.
Right. But like, how about we inquire? How about we learn? How about we dance? Right. Like, can I dance with all this? And then I can rise. And there's certain parts of my ministry I can say that, and maybe this is a general rule, but for me, there's parts of my ministry that I have extremely great muscle about. I mean, I'm like awesome at some of these things. Why? Because I had to do it myself. Because I
took human-sized bites.
I had faced the giants. I had to develop the trust. I had to develop the muscle. And so when I come to assist someone else, like, it's so easy because it's not me, and I got the muscle. I have serious muscle and distinctions, and right, and it's like such a gift. I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn. You're the same way. I have so many resources that I had to develop to get my butt out of the hole, right?
Yeah.
that I can just be like, oh, here's the muscle. I can be a buddy, and here's some ideas. Let's go.
I have a great example of this in my life. So I've been pulling ivy. My property is surrounded in Boston ivy. And in between pulling ivy, I've added a particular kind of weightlifting routine. And, you pull ivy by reaching out with your gloved hands and pulling. But my weight routine didn't involve, my arms and my shoulders. I'm rehabbing one of my shoulders. My weight routine was just my lower body. And I was really dedicated with my weight routine. And then a few weeks later, I went out to pull weeds again, and I was shocked at how easy it was. And I hadn't worked my arms or my hands, but just adding some strength to my lower body made pulling up all these ivy remarkably easier.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to encourage people, right? Take human-sized bites and be repetitive. Do what's good for you over and over and over again, and the goodness grows. And it's just incredible. Before you know it, you can easily pull ivy.
Yes, yes, and that's physically applicable.
Applicable.
Thank you. Applicable.
You're welcome.
And emotionally and
Mm-hmm.
relationally and in our
Mm-hmm.
souls and our spiritual opening. I mean, it's the same exact thing, and that's why they call it spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm. And you like to talk about not just building the muscle, but also building endurance,
Yes.
and it improves flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it's incredible the little things that we do. So my ability to reach way over here to pull an ivy vine is much easier. And before, I would have to completely change my position, or I'd have to twist a certain way. Uh, and flexibility and building the muscle happens with consistency and human-sized bites.
Yes. Yes. And I'm someone who likes to just be here or there. I like to just do it all the time or never.
Mm.
Like moderation through extremes is how I'm thrown. And so, like when I was learning guitar, the best thing for me to do was 5 minutes a day.
Mm.
It didn't totally kill my finger pads, but I built calluses, and just the practice of it. Each day a little bit, like, was so much better than once a week for an hour,
Yeah,
which would have been torture and wouldn't have worked. And so it's the same in our soul. It's the same in our relationships. And it's the same in our healing.
that's true. I call that cramming.
Right.
Right? Cramming, it doesn't benefit you.
Right. And
It
in the
makes
break,
it hard.
before we started, you were saying you can't change a diaper once a day.
Yes. Wouldn't that be terrible? And you learn the lesson. If for some reason you're out traveling and you don't get the diaper changed, or even a couple days in a row where you wait a little too long, man, that baby's butt gets a rash, and then you pay for it. And
Yeah.
the baby pays for it, right? But then it becomes more steps necessary to take to help them recover from that. So yeah,
Right.
don't change diapers once a day. That's just a mistake.
Yeah. It's well, not it's terrible. But in our own healing, in our own development, can I just take on one little thing? Can I just
Yeah.
make one little practice a day to shift? Or like in my private healing sessions, it's like, all right, I'll just tear out that ivy, right? Like I'm just gonna go tear out all the ivy. It's like, how about just 5 minutes a day?
Yeah, because you try to do that, and then the next day you can't do anything.
Yeah. And then the ivy just grows back, and
Yes.
who wants to do it? Is it part of the dance, from my perspective of dancing soul development, is to have the body not be tortured.
Yeah.
If we
Mm-hmm.
don't, because then the body doesn't want to do it. So like, all right, so let's have a little cup of tea and a lap blanket and make it comfortable for the body, and then do the work. And then afterward, go for a walk and play, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
just like in, doing relationship counseling or whatever, it's like after the relationship counseling, go have high energy fun.
Yes. Yes. Go get ice cream or something.
Go something fun, because that wasn't all fun and games.
Yeah. Awesome. Any closing remarks, Wendy?
Yeah, the third big thing is, and we were kind of looking at it with the ivy, is like when I let in new vibrations and new experiences and new level of consciousness, the old can't stay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that old, dark, heavy stuff, it comes up and out to clear, and it can be uncomfortable. Um, and it's usually uncomfortable. And
And
the important
ugly.
part
I want to
is
say it's uncomfortable and it can be ugly.
so ugly.
Yeah.
And the important part is to let it. The important part is to do the practices, to allow the change, to allow the difference, so that it doesn't get stuck. Like what people tend to do, the hate comes up, and the rage, or the old experiences, or the incredible overwhelming anxiety, or sadness, or whatever, like really hard stuff. It starts to come up, and everybody's just like, bah! And everything freezes. And so here I am, breathing and looking through and creating through hell
Yes.
for an unknown amount of time. And the important part is to not get stuck. Important part, do whatever it takes, the spiritual practices, the asking for help, the reaching out, the, go for a walk, exercise, watch a fun movie, whatever it takes to not be just sitting there breathing that hell. I cannot say how important it is. And this is a natural process, that the heavy and dark comes out when the light and airy comes in, and there's nothing wrong. And if we just allow it to flow, then it's over.
And that's why human-sized bites is always so helpful, because stuff comes up.
It does.
And it's heavy and hard.
And ugly.
Yeah, and ugly.
Yeah. Right. So if we do it bite-sized, and we don't allow ourselves to freak out and stop and say, forget this, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
And if I do say that, to repent and turn around and a little help.
Yes. It's like cleaning my chicken coop. If I do it regularly, then it's not intolerable.
Perfect.
But if you let it go, it's terrible for everyone, chickens included.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. This is the beginning of a beautiful new life
It is.
that we're talking about today. Thank you, Dawn.
In with the new. Thanks to everyone who's watching today, and we'd love to hear from you. If our conversation spoke to you, please tell us what's on your heart by leaving us a comment. For more information about how you can live by heart, please go to our website, livebyhearttoday.com. Like and follow the page and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our programs. We're here weekly, Thursdays at 4:44 Pacific. From our heart to yours, we're creating a better tomorrow because we live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart Today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, We Are Storically, for your conscious human apparel. Shop online at wearehistorically.com.
Hi, I'm Darius Wilrich. I'll teach you everything you need to know about playing jazz piano like a pro with my 12-week online video course and downloadable guidebook, Jazz Piano Pro Essentials. Enroll today at jazzpianopro.com.
Thank you for joining us. Have a happy always.